And you were listening to Season 6 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Christian Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Rogers. Today's episode of Christian Outdoors, we're talking with Mr. Chad Stillman. Chad was born and raised in southeastern Wisconsin. He was introduced to sports and the outdoors at a young age. And by 22 years old, he was a fresh college graduate, a brand new homeowner, and embarking on his lifelong dream of working in law enforcement. Quickly moving up the ranks, Chad received a promotion to SWAT Team and ultimately settled in as the FBI Task Force Director. But I want to warn the audience, this isn't an easy conversation to listen to as Chad takes us on an emotional journey that he still has a lot of difficulty talking about. He struggles at times here when he details the events of January 17, 2018, a day that changed his life and the lives of others forever. And 7 years later, he's still battling with some of the PTSD from those events and what happened that day. He gives credit to his time in the outdoors, the support of his faith and of his friends and family, but mostly to his faith in Jesus for sustaining him when the pressures of life were just too much. Hard to believe that we're already on episode 336, but today we have with us Mr. Chad Stillman, and Chad has such a great story he's going to share with you guys in just a minute. So I tell you what, why wait, Chad? Let's just go ahead and bring you in and tell the audience about yourself, and then we'll jump right into your life experiences and how that has impacted who you are.
Yeah. So Chad Stillman, born and raised southeast Wisconsin. Been married for 21 years this year. I have two teenage daughters, 19 and almost 17-year-olds. So I could use your prayers there.
And they're done that.
With teenage daughters. Yeah, man. So basically from a really, really, really early age, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a police officer, you know.
Oh, okay.
And so kind of growing up, geared everything toward that, you know, everything I did, a lot of the decisions I made, paths that I took, because I come from a family of them, was like, hey, I'm going to go into law enforcement. So, you know, as a that's kind of where I started focusing, you know, from a young age. But sports were always super, super important to me. Huge part of what I did. Played soccer, played baseball, played football all up to semi-professional level as a kicker. As far as the outdoors, I started early and cut my teeth like most, I'd say, Midwestern kids get into hunting, and that's hiding in the tree line and shooting geese as they fly over. That was that was how I kind of cut my teeth on hunting, and it just evolved from there. You know, probably got my first bow around 14 and kind of dabbled in it. Really didn't get into bow hunting until after I started my police career. You know, that's when I really, really got into it. But yeah, man,
you came along in the golden age of bow development, didn't you? You really did.
Yeah, I did. So my first bow, I'm a Matthews guy. I love the company. Love. All
right, this show's over. I'm teasing.
Like, and we're done.
I'm teasing Matthews people.
Well, and for the fact that it's really all I've ever known, because I worked in a bow shop, you know, in college. They sold Matthews. I bought a Matthews FX, which was their baseline, you know, cheapest one that I could buy. Stuck with that, and then had that for a very long time, and then just kind of have through the years progressively, you know, got their newer flagship models. And
if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of chase that rabbit for a very short trail.
Yeah.
Boat companies. People seem to be married to the boat company a lot like they are their pickup trucks. You drive an F-150 and that's it. That's it. You will never drive a Chevrolet or a Ram or a Toyota, or like me, I'm a Ram guy. I really like the Rams. That doesn't mean I used to have this saying that I'd rather walk 10 miles carrying a Ram hubcap than drive a Ford.
Right. Yeah. We do silly stuff under the ruse of like this weird loyalty. And I'm the same way, man. I'm a Ranger boats guy. Like I got a Ranger boat. Like that's my jam, right? I drive a Ram, you know. When I used to have all the toys, I was a Polaris guy. And like but
Yeah.
I was kind of ingrained in that growing up. That's probably kind of my upbringing. My dad worked for the auto industry, so he worked for Chrysler. So like, man, you didn't even think about
There you go.
driving a non-Mopar.
Right. Right.
Um,
But it's
but
the same. It's the same with boat companies. You're either
yeah,
you're a Hoyt guy, or you're a Bayer guy, or you're a Matthews guy, or a PSC, or Elite, whatever, insert brand
right.
here. And they just tend to just stay with them.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and I shot primes for years, and then I was with the television. I was asked to be a guest on one of on the outdoor television shows, and they were sponsored by Hoyt, so I had to get a Hoyt, so I couldn't shoot a prime then, right? And so now I'm shooting a Hoyt. Well, was, and I'm like, if I go to ATA show, I shoot all the bows. They're all
yeah.
good.
They're all good.
They're all
Right,
really.
right,
When you get
right,
to the middle price point up, right? They're all very, very good.
yeah,
It's just what feels right to you,
right.
which leads to my question I want to ask, and then again, short trail. We don't want to digress too much. I cannot believe how much these bows cost nowadays.
My goodness.
If you
Yeah,
pay $1,000 for a bow today, you can't get 1,500 for it next week, and
right,
in 2 years, it's $400.
right.
You buy a $2,000 shotgun, it's worth $2,000 10 years from now.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing. I know guys that own pawn shops that will not even buy bows because they said they depreciate so fast. Why do I even want to carry it in a pawn shop?
right.
And I just don't understand how they just keep pushing that price up, to. I mean, it is really expensive.
It is. It is. I remember the day a guy could go into a bow shop, buy a flagship bow, a dozen arrows, a target, and a bag, and leave there at $1,500.
Yeah, yeah, decked out. I mean, the bow's
Yeah,
decked.
I mean, like ready to rock, like with a real nice setup. And now,
Now it's going to cost you $4,000.
yeah, I mean, without a question. And
Yeah,
I'm involved with a lot of what I do is like getting first responders and veterans involved in archery. So I'll take them into their local shop, local shop here in town, and some of my friends that have the funds, they're blessed to just go in and say, "Hey, I want the flagship setup," and I'll walk them through it. Sometimes I'm sticker shock, like my
yeah,
goodness, and I'm blessed to be kind of connected in the industry where
you get discounts.
I get discounts, man, and the
Yeah,
price just hurts a lot less, right? I'm not nearly spending what
right.
average Joe was walking into a bow shop, and I'm very thankful for that. But to go in and drop $4,000 on a stick and string, man, that's wild.
It, especially when you know it's not going to hold its value.
Right,
It
right.
held
Like
its value. You're like, okay, well,
I'll trade it in 5 years and
right, right,
go to the next one or whatever. But that's
right.
kind of going away.
And it's just the price difference from year to year is $400 or $500. It's
Yeah,
not 50, 75, 100. I mean, it's just I don't know where it's going to go. And I'm afraid, and then we'll get back to you. I'm afraid that it won't be long before they're priced themselves out of the market to the point where they're no longer able to sell them. And also, sidebar, now the people who run these boat companies know a lot more about it than Pete does.
right.
But when you see a company like a Hoyt or a Matthews, I'm just using them because that's who we're talking about, who releases every year 7 new models. I mean,
The pool's not that big, right? Like
yeah,
there's a lot of hunters, but not that much to sustain a company, from year to year, because I don't think there's that many people that are making upgrades every single year. There's a handful of hunters
yeah,
out there that are getting something new, but that's a lot.
that's a
And
lot.
so you're saturating a market. The
Right.
more there are in the market, it's basic economics. The less they're worth. And it's the
Yeah.
same with houses right now. There's not a lot on the market, which is why they're so darn expensive right now.
Yes, which is good because I'm trying to sell a house. But anyway, but like Hoyt, and I'm just pulling a number out of the hat, so Hoyt people don't jump all over me. But if they release 7 models at 7 different price points, then the manufacturing cost, the inventory cost, the carrying cost, the distribution, all that stuff is times 7.
Yeah.
Why don't you release 3 models? An entry level, a mid grade, and then the flagship. You don't have to have 3 levels between each one of those.
No.
I just don't understand it. That's a business decision for those people, but it worries me as somebody who's passionate about hunting and archery hunting that they're going to price themselves out of the market to the point where it's just going to be cost prohibitive. Hunting equipment is getting so expensive, and licenses are getting so expensive, and it's becoming an elitist activity or sport. I mean, and I hate that. So
No, it shouldn't be that. No, I'm with you there. I mean, it's got to stay affordable for sure.
Yeah. Like you said, if you buy a $2,000 bow, now you got to buy a $600 sight. You got to buy a $300 rest. You got to buy $80 stabilizer, and you got to buy arrows. You used to get a dozen for $60. Now you get 6 for $150.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it. $285 for a dozen is wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
And broadheads. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. $60, $70 for 2 or 3 of them. It's like,
yeah. Which I've had some broadhead companies on the show, and they've explained the manufacturing cost and all that, but still, you buy 3 broadheads and they're $115. I'm like, dude, I better be able to resharpen this for a long time.
I know it. And I shoot expandables, and I don't care what company it's from. Most of them aren't. You're not reusing them. You might switch out some new blades, but I mean, unless I whack a turkey or a little doe and I get a good pass through, I might reuse that one. But for the most part, it's one and done, man. And that's a lot of money on a one and done. Now, the brand I shoot starts with a G and ends with a 5, and it I love those. And I just started shooting them this year, and man, they're the real deal. I mean, the absolute devastation in the buck and the doe that I killed this year were like, holy smokes. I mean, I would have taken 2-gallon jugs of water and walked down the trail on both sides. I mean, that's how it was pouring out of both sides. And granted, the shot placement, I get it, but my goodness, they were effective.
I like how you did that. They start with a G and end with a 5. I like that very much.
Real subtle, right?
Yeah, it's called the meat something. I don't, because I'm not sponsored.
Yeah, Meat Getter. Can't remember, but it's good.
The same one that they just changed the name on it. I shot it before it was the meat market, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Meat Market.
Yeah, that's a good name right there. That's copywritten. Anybody tried to steal that?
We got a venture, Pete. We're gonna work out.
Yeah. And the last couple of years, I shot the Sever, two blade expandable, devastating wound channels, really devastating.
Great broadhead.
Yeah, and but I also shoot longbows and recurves, and I use a 2-blade. What do they call it? Beveled.
Okay.
Single bevel, 2-blade, single bevel, because it's 150 grain. It's a lot heavier.
Right.
If it flies, I mean, you can release the arrow, drink a cup of coffee, and wait for your arrow to hit the deer.
Right. Yeah, they're like the 45 caliber of the bow hunting world. They're just slow.
I shoot a 45 caliber most of them. Thank you.
Wow, based on your age, I'm guessing you do shoot a 45.
Oh, boom! That's a good one. I gotta give you a good 5 on that one. That's a good one. That's really good. That's CVA.
I mean, they shot a lot of those in World War II, so I'm just kidding, man.
That's great. I love this. This is great. I could take it all day long. Okay. Gloves are off now, though, Chad.
I'm sorry. I'm expecting it.
All right. So we're off the my little rabbit trail about the cost of bow hunting nowadays. It's just a fear I have that's going to keep people from getting into the game. Now, that aside, back to you. So you went into law enforcement because that's what you've always wanted to do.
Yeah, man. So I had an uncle that was a SWAT cop and a cop in the town I grew up in, a couple cousins. And it's just like, yeah, that's what I want to do. The thought of, and I tried some other things, right? So in high school, I did some like a co-op or an internship in finance. So I sat in a cube I worked for Case, the tractor company. So that was kind of cool, but you're still sitting in a cube, and that's just not how God designed me. And I wasn't even a believer, at that part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a calling. It was more like, hey, I know I can't do this.
Right.
I had some really good advice from the chief of police at the time as I was getting ready to go into college. And he said, hey, we'll hire you with 60 college credits, but you can't get hired till you're 21 anyways. So go get your bachelor's degree. Don't get it in police work. He said, get it in something else because it doesn't matter what your degree's in. So I went and got a business degree, went to a 4-year college, ended up with a business degree. The same week I graduated college in 2002, bought my first house and started at the police department. It was like the most wild week of my life as far as like, all right, stepping right into adulthood.
You graduated college in 2002.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. And I feel old now in the police world. I see some of these new officers and I'm like, you were born in 2002.
Yeah.
They're cops and they're cops now.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Yeah.
I have children that were born in 2002.
Yeah.
My youngest was born in 2002. Yeah.
Good year.
It was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All
got hired.
got hired. To the police force.
I did. Once you get hired, especially at that age or whatever, I wasn't certified. So the police department sends you to an academy. Did the academy like the whole summer, from May to August of 2002. And then you go right into their field training process. Field training process is where you ride with a training officer that's gonna, be either really good or not so good. And I had some really good ones, and I had some that I'm pretty sure they just didn't want to do a lot of work that day, which is why they had a rookie riding with them. But so you go through that process, and then you go right into patrol. I worked second shift, and right around this time, my wife and I were not my wife at the time, but she was my girlfriend at the time. We got pretty serious and ended up getting engaged around this time. Then we got married in 2004. So about 2 years into my career.
Let me ask you this, because there's different levels of police. State, you're a town or city cop, or
I was a city cop, okay. And I was in the city of Racine, Wisconsin, which is about people are like moving out of there in droves now because it's kind of a dump in my opinion. But at the time, like 85 to 100,000 people. Okay. But right between, strategically placed right off I-94, right between Milwaukee and Chicago, right on Lake Michigan. So smaller town, police force of about 200 sworn, but a lot of big city problems. I mean, we had gangs, we had shootings, we had homicides, we had drugs, like anything a big city has, we had it. Sometimes they would call Racine a mini Chicago because it was a rough place. So I always say like it was a crummy place to live, but a great place to be a cop because it was fun. It was a lot of action. And I didn't want to be a cop to, write people barking dog tickets. I felt my calling was to go catch bad guys, doing bad guy stuff. And I made a career out of doing that. And essentially that's what cost me my career was, not being afraid to answer the tough calls and go after really bad people.
Well, as we say in the hunting world, it was a target rich environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about that. Tell us about what happened. That's obviously a big part of your story. So if you don't mind sharing it as much as you're sharing it.
No, not at all. So I'll kind of lead up to how I even got into that position. So, I did patrol for 4 or 5 years, ended up on the SWAT team, really tough tryout and a really competitive process. Ended up doing a total of 10 years on the SWAT team. Went into investigations around 2010 and did 3-4 years doing burglaries and homicides and other things, and then ended up getting put on a FBI gang task force in 2014 or 2015. And I was on that task force for a while. And what you do in that task force is we were kind of had to keep our hand on the pulse of the gang activity in the city. So we would target violent gang members and build long-term cases on them, right? Like we would do multiple gun buys, drug buys, send in undercovers. And instead of just taking them down that day, we would buy guns from, someone for months just to build a really strong case and hopefully get, go out to other targets. And so that's what I did. July 17th, 2018. My partner and I got a call that there's an individual selling drugs, armed with a gun. He was a felon, doing things he shouldn't have been doing. So we're dressed in plain clothes, right? We're jeans, hoodies, external carriers, stocking caps on that say police, kind of just like the movies, man. And we're like, all right, let's go try to stop him. We're in an unmarked squad, but it's obviously got lights and we're the police. And so we tried initiating a traffic stop on him. Yeah, it was like 4 PM and he took off running. I gave I gave chase. I was closest to him. We go, down a street through some yards. It had just snowed, so it was just kind of not most ideal for a foot pursuit. Get into a backyard, and he's laying on his stomach because he had fallen down. He tripped over a railroad tie that was covered in the snow. So I go running up on him. I knew he had a gun the whole time based on the information and the way he was running. I made a career out of taking guns off the street, and I knew when someone had one and they didn't. And the way he's running like a turkey, turkeys run, their arms don't move. That's how he's running. It's like, all right, he's holding something. So get in the backyard, and I draw down on him. Show me your hands. And the second, like I'm saying, show me your hands, he's turning around, and I'm looking down the barrel of a Taurus 9mm into the eyes of a demon possessed man that was intent on killing me and my partner. And I say that because the spiritual realm was real, man. And like there was something off that day. That wasn't like a person I was staring at. That was a possessed individual that the enemy got, that pure evil, man, that the enemy got into that person's life and took over and tried talking him into killing 2 cops. And by God's grace, Pete and I survived. Yeah, man, it was wild. It was dark. When an incident like that happens, especially the way this did, right? Because it's multiple shots, and then you're running to cover, and then you're grabbing a reload, and then you're coming out from cover, and you see him sitting up, and he's trying to kill your partner, and then you're engaging him again. It wasn't a pop when we're done. I mean, there's audio out there of the incident. You can hear our radio transmissions. You can hear shots being fired. Like it was real, man. And so after the incident, I'm looking for my partner, right? I can't find him. And I look over, and by that time patrol had arrived, and they're doing, CPR on the suspect, and Pete's there, right next to the guy that just tried to kill us, man. And he just exemplified that day of what God calls cops to be. And that's a warrior and a guardian. Romans 13, man. Yeah, we're put into that position for a reason. Cops are in those jobs because God has put you and allowed you to carry out, his will. Mm-hmm. And there's sometimes we have to be the warrior. Sometimes we got to engage in a gun battle. Sometimes we have to do the hard thing. It's a fact of the matter. And I'm thankful for great training, and I'm thankful for God's protection. And I'm thankful that I'm here talking to you today, and that my girls didn't lose their daddy at 9 and 11 years old, that I'm still around, and my wife didn't lose a husband. But to see him go right back into that guardian role of now he's trying to preserve life and take care of this guy. And he's giving him chest compressions. Hang in there, man. Stay with us. Stay with us. Like that's, man, that dude is.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So I go grab Pete, and I'm like, there's enough people standing around. You don't need to be doing this. So we walk off, and then we start, are you okay? Are you okay? I don't know. Like we don't even know if we're hit. Yeah. So we start checking each other, under the arms and under our vests, make sure we didn't catch something. By God's grace, we didn't. And it wasn't until about 2 months later, once the investigation was complete and they released everything, Department of Criminal Investigation, DCI, they asked if I had any questions. I'm like, yeah, how many rounds did he get off at us? And they're like, none. And I'm like, that's impossible. I remember him pointing, and I remember that gun. And they said that so I shot a 40 at the time. That's what was given to me by the police department. Pete, being a little older than me, shot a 45. Nothing against you, Pete. So Pete had good, he went 45 route. I had a 40 at the time. Our rounds. We
can handle the recoil better than
you can. You can. I'm a little guy. So they knew whose rounds were whose. And one of my rounds hit the trigger guard of the Taurus, went through his index finger, through his hand, and lodged in his wrist, and leaving his trigger finger to hang by a piece of skin. This happened so fast the suspect didn't know it. But when he was sitting up trying to kill us, the gun wasn't going bang because his finger didn't have the power to pull the trigger because it was dangling. Like man, that's God's protection.
So one of your rounds hit the trigger guard of the Taurus.
Yep. Continued on, went through his index finger, hit the trigger of the Taurus, broke the safety off of the trigger safety, continued up his arm, and then lodged in his wrist. And that was my first volley. But it makes total sense because when we would do, real life scenarios, SWAT practice, and I would be the bad guy, I'd get shot in the stinking hands all the time because you have a weapon fixation, right? If you're holding something, especially if you're holding it up, in front of your face, that's a target zone. So sometimes your hands are going to catch rounds. That's all that was. That wasn't me being like, some gifted shot. That was me just putting rounds on target as fast as I could and getting out of dodge.
Mm-hmm.
By God's grace, we rendered him, without the ability to kill us. We didn't know that at the time, obviously, until after all this was done.
Right. It's a tough thing though, isn't it? When you're engaged into a real gun battle like that.
Yeah, man, it's surreal. Like you don't even think your training takes over. Man, I remember at one point looking back at Pete and he had cover behind a car and he was putting rounds down range and everything just slowing down for a brief second and then speeding back up. It's bizarre. Your mind does wild things and, certain things you remember really well and there's certain things you don't. And I mean, even talking to you now about it, I feel this welling up of anxiety and I'm 7 years post incident and I still like, when I talk about it, I put myself there. It's like, whew, glad that's done. But that wasn't even the hardest part.
Okay. I'm listening.
The hardest part was having a city that knew we did the right thing without a doubt, but then have the fortitude to go out and say it in a timely manner. They just kept deferring, right? Well, let the investigation play out. Well, the crowds, right? The crowds didn't want to hear that. They wanted answers now. And then they didn't get answers, so they made up stories. And then the media bought those stories, hook, line, and sinker, and put those stories out there and put those people on the news. And now, like, lies are circulating about what happened, saying he was unarmed and we shot him in the back running away and blah, blah, blah. All lies, man. Well, the longer a lie goes that's not met with the truth, even the general public starts to believe that that's the truth, man. And we became, piles of garbage to a lot of people, a bunch of racist cops out killing people, right? Like that was hard, man. After everything was said and done, I had this nurse message me online that kind of knew me from going in and out of the hospital. As a cop, you're always in and out of it. And she was like confessing to me, like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, for, thinking like, for what? And she said that I believed the media and I had you written off as just a piece of crap and couldn't believe that you would murder this child, blah, 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 blah. He's not a child. He was like 20 something years old. So he's a grown man. He knew what he was doing. She said, I read the entire DCI police report and I was sick to my stomach when I read the real details because it was nothing even remotely close to what the media was reporting. And during that time, death threats come in. And the cops at the city were not sharing a lot of them with me because they didn't really want me freaking out. But I caught wind of quite a few of them. And man, like my address was getting shared online. They're talking about doing drive-bys on my house. And they know I had kids and they were going to kill my kids. And like, it was ugly. So now you go from like, all right, this is just, I'm a police officer. This is part of my job, to seeing firsthand how your family's affected by it. Right. And you got a squad parked in your driveway 2 months because of the threats are so real. That's what hurt the most. And it's that stuff. That's why I'm not a cop anymore. That put me in a dark space. And I was just like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
You felt betrayed by the very people you're trying to protect.
17 years of, and this isn't Chad Stillman tooting his horn, but I wasn't your average cop, dude. Like 17 years, I gave it my all. I sacrificed family time. I sacrificed relationships, like time with my wife. Like I was all in. right? And I did it 8 years, and I'll even go into this, man. I was first 8 years of my career, I wasn't a believer. June 15th, 2010, Jesus saves me, and he gives me 8 more years to do it as a believer. And it was an amazing experience, man. Just had really good opportunities with people. I gave it my all, and when I needed them the most, they failed us.
Mhm.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
And then you apply for a disability retirement because that's what the union tells you to do, and then that gets denied. So it's another 1.5 year fight of trying to get that. Praise God, they did do what's right, and I got a medical retirement. But
It
man,
reminds me.
it doesn't take everything away. Like PTSD is ugly, and it's something that it's not something you just get over. It's not something that just goes away.
Right.
It doesn't make you weak or soft, but you got to know what triggers it. You got to know how to deal with it. And with me, it's prayer. I woke up the other morning super anxious, thinking about the stupid shooting. I don't know why I was thinking about it. And I just told my wife later in the day, and I'm super anxious. And I didn't tell her why I was anxious. And she's like, rebuke it, give it to Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I got to do. And he's there with me every day, man, because every day's different.
And every day's hard. Every day's hard. You got that. And if you don't mind, I'd like to add some things to that. I've had a lot of veterans on the show and a lot of law enforcement, and we've talked about this subject a lot, PTSD, because it's near and dear to my heart. And that I've heard this a lot from especially older veterans, Vietnam guys who came home with a country that was mad at them for being there. And like, dude, we're just doing our job trying to get home to our families. That's all we're trying to do.
Right.
We're trying to survive and get home. And they walk through the airport and being screamed at, called baby killers and murderers and stuff. And I'm just doing what I'm supposed to, I'm just trying to get home. I got drafted. I didn't choose to go. I went. And then you get it from other guys who, in law enforcement, who have gone through similar events like you have. And it's trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. Trauma is trauma. And I want to say this too, to a listener, Chad, I'm not, and it is that it doesn't have to be a shooting. It doesn't have to be law enforcement. It doesn't have to be military to have PTSD. If you have experience, I know people that have been sexually assaulted that have severe PTSD. I know people that have been character assassinated have PTSD.
Yeah.
Trauma is trauma.
Yeah, man. Loss of life. I know people that have lost children. Pain is real, and what I don't want to see happen, and what happens in the veteran world and law enforcement sometimes is we want to play play cards with our trauma. Like, well, my trauma's worse than yours, and no, man. Like you said, you nailed it. Trauma is trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to the adage of, dude, life is hard. Mm-hmm. Pain is real, and God is really good.
Yes.
Like those three things, man. Just you got to cling to that, because there's no easy day. Like life is hard, man. Yes. And God promises, John 16:33, he promises us, like, take heart, in this world you will have troubles. That's written in red.
Yes.
He also says, take heart, I've overcome the world, right? That's like right. He's there. He sees us. He's not surprised. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, if he didn't save me 8 years before this incident, I wouldn't be here. If that shooting didn't take me out, I would have taken myself out. Mm-hmm. And that's what the enemy wants.
Yeah. And that's what you see with so many people, the 22 a day that we hear about from veterans. Right. And that 22 a day is not just veterans. It's all first responders. It's veterans, it's law enforcement, it's firemen, it's EMTs. I've had EMTs on here that they see some horrific things.
Terrible stuff.
Horrific thing. And you can't get those images out of your mind, no matter how much you try. They're there. And whatever we can do to help that. And as you said, the best way, in my opinion, is through a relationship with Christ. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it gives you hope. It gives you somebody to lean on who's never going to let you down.
That's right. Yeah.
So tell me, because you've referred to it several times, Chad, about when you got saved. Tell us. And the way I like to approach that in my show is, is this more of a journey than an event? I mean, when people get saved, they can say, as you did, your date and time, right? That on June whatever 19 or 19, you weren't even born then, but 2000 and whatever is when I got saved. But what was it before then? Were you raised in a Christian home? Were you taught that, or was it something that was just, Christmas and Easter, the C&E guys, or was it something that you just came to later in life?
Yeah, no, it's an awesome question and something I love to dive into. So, I was raised in a Lutheran home, right? That's really
Well,
common.
you're
Really
in
common up here
Wisconsin.
in Wisconsin. Wisconsin Lutheran, man.
You don't have a
Um,
choice.
right. It's
They're
either that or Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So, raised going to the Lutheran church, and this isn't me, you know, being negative on the Lutheran church, but like what I saw as a kid, Jesus wasn't preached. A
Yeah.
Bible was rarely opened. It
Yeah.
was a lot of religion and minimal relationship. So I went through the steps, right? Like got confirmed in 8th grade and did the things that my parents asked me to do. And I wasn't an atheist. Like I believed God, but like I treated him as a genie. Like, hey, I gotta help me go 4 for 4 today.
Yeah.
You know, help me hit this 53-yard game winner,
Yeah.
and I'll put a cross around my neck and,
Yeah.
tell people how great you are. But it was never about a relationship. It was about how can Chad use you for his advantage.
Right.
So growing up, I always was attracted to early on this idea of if I work really hard, I'm gonna be able to buy things. I liked buying stuff, right? So man, if I work hard, I can buy a new mountain bike. If I work hard, I can buy a new shotgun. I can buy a bow. And all of a sudden, like that became the way that I achieved happipiness. And I think a lot of guys operate that way.
And eventually your gun safe gets full and your garage is full and you think, well, what's next? I don't know what else I
Bingo.
want,
Bingo.
um, oh, now what?
Yep. Dude, you hit it on the head, man. So by 30 years old, out of brand new house that we had just built, I had 2 brand new cars. None of this is paid for, by the way. It was like, hey, whatever the bank's gonna let me borrow, we're gonna keep doing it. But from the outsider
That's
looking
the
in,
American way. That's
yeah,
the American way.
yeah. But the outsider looking in, Chad and Melissa had it going on, right? 2 beautiful little baby girls. Dude, everything I thought I ever wanted that was gonna make me feel complete. And I was empty, man. And didn't know how to do this marriage thing. I'm still trying to figure that out at 45 as a Christian, let alone being a 30-year-old unbeliever. So my wife worked a day shift. I worked second shift. We never saw each other. Like literally just not on the same page. Marriage was hard. We were just both ready to tap out, both miserable. Didn't know which way was up. And I had a good friend that had given his life to Christ, 6-7 years earlier, that was constantly just pointing me back to Jesus, right? And I was just broken. And I'm like, hey, we got to meet up, man. Like, I want to talk some more. And it was at his kitchen table, June 15th, 2010, that for the first time, like, scripture made sense, right? He opened the Bible and I was like, wow, like this is real. And
Some good
God,
stuff in there, isn't it?
yeah, like I'm like, this is like the syllabus of life. And I've been keeping it locked up in a nightstand my whole life. Like, why haven't I been opening this? So I prayed to accept Christ that day, and I felt an immediate change. Now, did I change immediately? I don't know. The biggest place I felt it was like in my ability to have some empathy and sympathy on the police force, because I give my life to Jesus and like I'm just out patrolling, right? And the same people that weeks earlier were out still selling dope, doing the same things. I still wanted to go after them and be aggressive, but I'm like, what's their story? Like, why are they choosing to do what they're doing? Where in their life did they have a letdown? Why don't they know Jesus? Right. So all of a sudden I like started looking at this job as like, I got like the coolest ministry opportunity in the world, because everyone I deal with on a day-to-day basis is pretty much having the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. So
Yeah.
it was just like, dude, it was a target rich environment to to tell people about Jesus. And that rubbed a lot of cops wrong. And I quickly became a weirdo. Like,
Jesus freak.
Jesus freak. Why are you so weird? And then guys would just look to trip you up, right? Look to get you to say the wrong thing. Look to get you to look at the wrong thing. And it's like, man, I'm getting more opposition from, my boys at the police department than I am people on the street, right? But then just at home, it made me a better dad and a better husband. And like I said, man, I am not on this podcast to say I'm husband of the year. I'm far from it. I love my wife and I love my girls dearly, and leading them in a godly way and being a godly man and doing it the right way is one of the hardest jobs like we'll ever have. And we can't do it without God's help,
It's tough.
because I'm inherently a selfish dude, and being a selfish dude doesn't equate to being a godly leader. You can't do it. You can't do both. You have to be willing to lay it down, right? I'm actually preaching a wedding, or I would say preaching a wedding, but doing my first wedding at the end of this month, and kind of going through some notes and stuff. And I go through the scripture of.
Does your wife know you're getting married again?
She arranged it. She's like,
oh no,
no.
Wise.
Yeah. So as I'm going through the scriptures, and seeing like, all right, how are husbands supposed to love their wives? And it says like Christ loved the church. He's willing to give his life down, give his life for it.
Yep.
I think as men, especially type A men. So I'll put dudes in our industry, in hunting industry. Most of us are type A protectors.
Yep.
Most of us will lay down our lives for a stranger at Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let alone our wives.
Of course, twice about it.
Not even thinking twice, because it's how God designed us. We're going to lay our lives down for a complete stranger, right? We will do the heroic thing. But I think the heroic thing is like, are we willing to live for our wives? Not die for them. Are we willing to live for them? Meaning like, hey, you want to go to the pumpkin patch? It says it's a red moon and I was going to sit in a tree stand tonight, but all right, I'll go to the pumpkin patch with you because I love you. And I'm willing to live for you. Oh, you want to do this? Yeah, that's fine. I don't have to go, and for me, it's usually hunting, man. And I've been so convicted on that lately, because I'm like, in my stage of life, I got a lot of free time. So I choose to spend a lot of time in the woods when I can, right? It's like, I'm not going to sit in the house. I'm going to go in the woods. And, I hear about that. Like, oh, sometimes you'd always rather be in the woods than, with us, or you always choose to go shoot your bow than, hang out with us. And so even as Christians, man, it's a slippery slope, and it's something that I need to check myself to say, all right, am I living for you? Because when I'm called home, like, I want to be known as a Jesus follower and a dude that loved my wife and my daughters relentlessly. And I don't give a crap about any hunting accolades, because no one cares. We're the only one that cares about it. Now, I don't want to minimize that, because there's a lot of therapy and freedom and goodness in being out in God's creation. And that's where I thrive. And so does my wife. Like, we love being outside, but instead of chasing critters with a bow, she'd rather be on a hike. So let's go on that hike, Yeah. So I know I went on a tangent there, but I was preaching to myself more than anybody else.
Well, I think it's important though, because, the Bible says a lot of things about husbands and fathers, not just the scripture that you quoted there. And, but it also says we're supposed to pray for our wives, and we're supposed to honor them, and we're supposed to treasure them, and we're supposed to love them like we love ourselves, because it says man never hated himself. Right. I'm not talking about the dark moments of people. Everybody has dark moments, but just in general. And that if we are to do these things as husbands and fathers and men in general, then God will bless us accordingly. Right. And so it's very important for us as men to understand that, Paul says that we're to love our wives as Christ loved the church and gave his life for it. But then in another book, I'm trying to remember which book it is. One, thank you, Timothy. It may be Thessalonians. I don't know. I'm really bad about that. But he says that we're to honor our wives, and
Yeah.
we're to pray for them, and we're to lift them up and to not tear them down. And there's
Yes.
so many guys, and you've been in hunt camps. They talk about, oh, the old lady is just driving me crazy. And blah, blah, blah. And anytime I hear a man refer to his wife,
Mm.
old lady, it just crawls all over me, dude. It just does.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you honoring her by doing that? Are you honoring her by doing that? No, right? So it starts with there, I believe.
Yeah.
Just not that there's a perfect 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But if you're not going to honor them, then how can you pray for them? And if you're not going to pray for them, then can you love them the way Christ loved the church? And it's just all those different things, right? And that's what we need to do. And it's hard at times when they really make us mad.
Right.
It's like, well, I would pray for her, but she's just driving me crazy right now. Well, why is she driving you crazy? Is it really about her? Or is it about you?
About you, right? Not most of the time. It's your feelings are hurt or your pride's hurt, and you're not getting what you want, so you're pouty.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
just how. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
the truth of the matter, man. And
It is. It
it's
is.
hard, but
And a little bit of a diss on a woman, but not necessarily. Women are very reluctant to apologize in
oh
general.
yeah, yeah,
Very reluctant to apologize. And what I mean by that is the words "I'm sorry" go a long way to a man. They go a long way.
yeah.
Not just, okay, I'm no longer giving you the silent treatment. I'm talking to you again, so let's just hope this goes away. No, it's not going to go away till we address it.
Right.
And you acknowledge that you've hurt my feelings or that you did something or said something or whatever that was offensive or hurtful to me. Let's address that. You recognize that I'm hurt by that and you apologize for it and say you're sorry. And it's also important for men and women all to recognize when we say we're sorry, that's also saying I'm not going to do it again.
Right.
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 Can't repeat it, because if you did, then you wasn't really sorry the first time.
Right. Right. Yeah. Then it's just wordplay.
Yeah.
Like it's not an actual change.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Even to go further about the prayer thing, with a lot of guys I talk to, I'm just shocked at the amount of men that are absolutely terrified to actually pray with their wives.
Mhm.
Not like, oh, I'm going to pray for you and then walk away like Christians always love to do. Maybe just say you can pray for someone, put hands on them and pray for them in that moment, right? You
Right
find,
there.
do it right there. And I would say do it in your
It's
relationships.
7 to 12 seconds. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to be, oh, thou great
No,
redeemer. It's
no,
just God be with Chad. He's going
that's
through
right.
some stuff. I don't know what it is, but you do. I ask that you to be with him and to
Mm,
comfort him and to give him what he needs right now, Lord. That's all you need.
that's it. That's it. And that goes so far, but that it even in our own relationship. So if there's guys listening today, man, I challenge you to get anything out of this from listening to me babble. Pray for your wives. Find them where they're at tonight. Get some time alone. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes. Like Pete said, it doesn't have to be some all thou art thou. You don't have the perfect words, but God knows what she needs. God
Yeah.
knows what you need.
Yeah.
And the enemy is real and he attacks marriages and he's here to kill, steal, and destroy anything he can to keep a godly marriage from flourishing.
Right.
So
Right.
pray for your stinking wives. Put on some armor and pray for them.
Yeah.
And again, man, that's me preaching to myself because I don't do it enough. I do it, but not daily, and I should be doing it
Yeah.
daily. But there's a lot of
And
guys that are just terrified to do it.
when you're praying with them, if you pray for them while you're praying with them, what's the difference it makes? If you pray for them while you're praying with them, and then you pray, God, make me a better husband.
Mm,
Help me to honor her more. Help me to cherish her more. Help me to be better tomorrow for her than I was today.
right.
It makes a difference for you, but also for her.
Yeah, man. She sees your heart. She sees your heart
Yeah.
before God. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good stuff, dude. That's
Yeah. It
that's really
is.
good.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So your faith. So you accepted Christ on June to something 2010 at this
Yeah.
guy's table. And you carry that to your workplace and you got a lot of flack from your peers. But I love what you said about how now I'm looking at these people that you're chasing, for lack of a better word. The worst people of society that you're out trying to protect us from, and that as an opportunity to minister. How where are you now with all this, with your faith journey?
So where I'm at now is I'm about kingdom business. I'm done with like navel gazing. Woe is me. Oh, I wish, like, small talk. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not looking for even hunting buddies to just talk hunting with. Like, if I'm engaging with you, I hope you hear the gospel. I hope you see Jesus in me, because guys, I don't think we have a lot of time left. And the broad road that leads to destruction is real. Many people are on it, and hell is real. Hell is a real place.
It is.
And as long as I have breath in my lungs, it's going to be encouraging people to find a relationship with Jesus Christ. He's the only thing that matters.
It is. It is. And if you don't mind, I want to kind of go on a path here. And it's this something that I personally struggle with. And maybe you can help me, and I think it'll help listeners. You probably get to visit several hunting camps throughout time. Maybe every year, every other year, you're going somewhere else, you're hunting, and there's other guys there, right? And you're in this lodge or in this outfitter's place or whatever, or around a campfire. Initiating that conversation for me is very hard. Once the conversation gets going, I mean, I can, yeah, I liken it to, I've never been somebody good to start from the beginning, but I'm really good at fine tuning. Like coaching little league to the guys who don't know which glove the hand goes on. That drove me crazy, absolutely crazy. But then once they got to 11 or 12, and knew which base to run to, and they understood a little bit about the game, 'cause I'm a big baseball guy, then I can fine tune that to be a really good machine. But starting has always been hard for me, whether it's evangelism, whether it's coaching, whether it's right from the beginning. So let's see if we can together. If you're at a hunting camp with a bunch of guys that you don't know, maybe you know one of them, maybe Chad and I are there together, and there's 4 or 5 other guys there, and we're just sitting around shooting the breeze at the end of the day, like you do, sitting around the table, supper, and guys are telling stories and all this. How do you initiate a conversation that can help people to start the conversation about our faith?
One by prayer. You know, anytime I find myself driving, like I just went to a men's gathering the other night, barbecue through a church, but still knowing that there could be this likelihood that since it's dudes around barbecue, that regardless if it's church involved, it could go a different way. So praying on the way there, like, Lord, give me opportunities to be intentional. Give me the right words to say at the right time to glorify you. So I think you wait for the moment, and you can't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Yeah.
When you hear a guy say something that, like, oh, the old lady or the ball and chain, or he's kind of got a complaining attitude, or he's just using foul language, like, not being afraid to kind of come along that gently and kind of recorrect it. And guys are looking for that. You may think they're not, but like, guys are looking for, we don't need 12 best friends that are going to co-sign and agree with everything we say. That's a dangerous place to be. If that's your circle, find a new one.
Yeah.
You want to be around people that are going to look you dead in the eye and be like, hey bro, you're out of line. Well, why? Because we're golfing, you're a married dude, and you're flirting with the cart girl. That's not acceptable, bro. Like, don't do so. So be that dude that's willing to say that stuff.
What a great analogy. Boy, you see that all the time on the
My
golf.
goodness. Yeah. And I hate golf, but you see guys just act stupid.
Yeah.
They just think like, all right, you know, whatever happens on the golf course stays on the golf course, or fill it in whatever other thing you want to do. You see a dude take his wedding ring off, and you know, you're at a bachelor group away for a weekend. I don't know. Like, I don't do these things anymore because I'm 45 and I'm really boring, but I'm just saying, like, well, these things happen, and real life happens. And guys do and say stupid things, that give us opportunities to talk about God's goodness all the time. So that's all I'm saying. It's like you look for the right opportunity, and not every little thing is necessarily one that's going to spur on that conversation. But they got to see you live it too. You can't just be a guy that's always yapping about it and then doing what he wants.
Right.
You got to be about the business, and you got to act like it.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one hunting camp years ago I was at, and I was like, how did he just do that? He just, this guy was from Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, somewhere down in there. And we were out in the Midwest. I don't remember which state, Illinois, maybe. And we're just sitting around talking, and he looked at this fella and he said, I don't remember the guy's name. I'll say Bill. Bill, if you died tonight, do you know if you'd go to heaven or hell? I thought, Pete can't do that. Pete cannot do that. But he felt it. He asked it, and it opened up, and they ended up having a great conversation. Off on their own. And but I thought, how in the world? I don't have the courage to do that. I'm more of a subtle, I like to use the phrase subterranean. Just kind of build a relationship a little bit for a day or so, kind of get to know them, and then just kind of just slip it in. And I remember I was hunting in Pennsylvania back in the 90s, and there was a gentleman there from New Hampshire, and we're sitting around having lunch, midday, and he is just one of the most profane men I've ever been around. Right. And we didn't know each other. We just met there, and we're eating lunch, and he says, so Pete, what do you do? And I was the pastor of a church at the time. He says, so Pete, what do you do for a living? I thought, I've been hating this question. Because you tell people you're a preacher, they put on their Sunday school face.
Yep.
And so I just like to get to know people. And before I said, well, actually, I'm a pastor of a church. And and why in the blankety blank didn't you tell me before I started blankety blank talking like this? I said, because I just want you to be yourself.
Yeah.
But it opened it up. It started the conversation of what do you do for a living? I said, well, I run a Christian podcast, and I'm a trapper for the USDA. And a Christian podcast. What do you talk about? It opens the door sometimes.
Right.
And I think the reason I'm bringing this up is to encourage other guys when you're at hunting camp, don't shy away from it. It may be hard for you, like it is for me, to initiate the conversation, but when an opportunity presents itself, we are called to do something. And I'm talking way too much, but I think this is an important point. I remember a couple of summers ago, I had Hank Parker, the bass fish. What a great human being he is. And he made this statement, and I've used this with his permission when I go speak at churches around the country and stuff. He said this: it is a reasonable expectation that we should witness for Christ after all he's done for us. I like a reasonable expectation. I love how he said that. It just took a lot of the burden off of it for me. It's reasonable for all that Jesus has done for us. It is a reasonable expectation that we are to share his goodness with other people so that they can experience it too.
Right.
Hank, I love how you said that.
Yeah, that's so good.
I got goosebumps right now just repeating it. It is. It's reasonable.
Yeah.
All that Jesus has done.
It's right.
Yeah.
It's right. It's what should be done, because I think out of fear of man is why people don't open their mouths.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, is this group of guys are they gonna think I'm weird? Who cares? Who cares? Are they gonna be put off? Who cares? Like, if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, like, you have an obligation to step in when someone's talking, or when the opportunity presents itself. Right.
Yeah.
And we all have different roles, right? A shepherd doesn't have maybe the same skill set as like an evangelist. Right. But the means to the end is the same. Like, our goal is to point people to Christ. So if you're more hey, I'm gonna come in along this relationship, and I'm gonna earn the right to speak into there. And that used to kind of be the camp I was in. I want to earn the right to speak into this person's life, right? So I'm just gonna model it. I'm gonna be patient. Well, brother, like, I've seen too much death in my life.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, we're not promised tomorrow.
Literally.
And I know that hell is real. So now I just have this burning urgency to tell people about Christ. And I'll just tell you straight out, man. And I'm struggling because I don't know what to do with it. Like I'm in prayer, like, right. I was a cop, and then I did a chaplain thing for a while. And then now my wife and I are real estate agents. And it's like, yeah, selling real estate's fine, right? It helps pay the bills, but it's not my calling or my passion. My passion is to tell people about Jesus Christ. So like, what can I be doing more for the kingdom? And it's been something that's just burning on my wife and I for the last probably 2 years. And we just haven't got that answer yet, but still anyone we come in contact with, we just want to show them Christ's love. And when the situation presents itself, we want to tell them, you know, even our own stories and testimonies are what people cling to, especially men. Like for me, I can throw out, you know, not everyone's been in a shooting. Guys kind of eat that stuff up.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I can throw out, you know, I can talk the talk and walk the walk and then talk a lot about Jesus because he's it. And he's the only reason I'm here.
And as you said, when I go speak at these events around the country in different places, a lot of wild game dinners and sportsman's banquets and stuff, I love doing that. So if you're looking for a speaker, just email me at pete@christianoutdoors.org. Anyway, I love doing that because, as you said, because of my career choices, I've been able to do things that a lot of men just dream about.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm a full-time trapper for the USDA, so I get to spend 300 days a year in the woods and get paid for it.
That's awesome.
It's freaking awesome. It's an amazing job. And that's a story in itself. But I do that, and I've been an outdoor writer for 25 years. So I've been able to go hunt in a lot of different places, excuse me, and do a lot of different things. And that gives me an opportunity to reach men. I want to come hear about Pete's moose hunt in Alaska. I want to come hear about Pete. You know, he's hunted mule deer in Idaho, and he's hunted in 19 different states and blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't say I was successful in 19 different states because I always go unguided public land usually. I mean, 99% of the time, that's what it was. But it enables me to set the table to tell them about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever if you're a guy who's burning rods as a welder, you know, in on some pipeline somewhere, your sphere of influence is your sphere of influence. I'll never reach those guys.
Yeah.
I'll never reach those guys. I don't know. I know a handful of police officers, but I don't have your experience that we can talk about shop.
Right.
You can reach people that Pete will never reach. Right. And so for the listener, whatever your sphere of influence is, you may be a forklift driver in a warehouse, but you see these same guys and gals every single day. And you model that Christian walk. And when you know somebody just got back from leave, you go up to them and you say, I'm sorry I heard that your mom passed. I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to be praying for you. Boom. That makes such an impact for people.
Yeah.
It takes, how long did it take me to say that, Chad?
Right. Seconds.
Yeah. And that can just completely change somebody's life. Don't make it harder than it is. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Like, I think we overthink it, myself included. Like, you just got to stay in your lane and know God's going to give you opportunities. Right. But it's all that matters, man. One of my favorite sayings is, well, here it is. One of my favorite sayings. I can't remember it.
It's so good.
Well, it's so good. I can't remember it. One life. Golly. I'll come back to it. Just give me a second. I'm having a brain fart.
That's okay. I got plenty of sayings I can't remember.
Yeah.
So I write them down. Remember,
one life. I got it now. One life will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last.
Yes.
Like, man, we got one opportunity to do this to do this right. And there's no certain way to lead someone to Christ. There's no, hey, 5 steps to a better you, you know, like self-help is a $10 billion a year industry that a lot of people waste their time, money, and efforts on. Yep. And it all points to finding power within yourself or some external source that can't be sustained and does not last and doesn't offer eternity. Right. Stop with the self-help. Turn to Jesus.
That's the only help you need.
That's it, man. Like
That's the only help you need.
it's simple. It sounds it's so simple that it sounds ridiculous.
You know, and when I've done when I've talked to people face to face instead of through a computer, I've had guys say to me, I say guys because I usually do men's events, but gals too, say, "But Pete, you don't know what I've done." I'm like, "Right, I don't. I don't need to know, but God knows." And what he's saying is, Chad, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've done. I love you because I created you. You're
That's
made in
right.
my image. I breathe life into you. I love you regardless of what you've done. It's not what you've done, it's what can you do, right? So, men are really bad about beating themselves up and having it, having difficult time forgiving ourselves for our bonehead decisions that we've made 15 years ago,
Right.
right? We've all made bonehead decisions. We've all done things we wish we would have done differently, and Jesus says, "I don't care. That doesn't matter. I still love you, and I want you to receive the love I have for you." So,
Yeah.
guys, if you're listening to this, gals, whoever's listening to this, it doesn't matter what you've done, right? Because you're not defined by your worst decisions.
That's right.
You're not defined by your worst decisions. You're only defined by your best decision. That is to accept a relationship
Follow
with
him.
God. Yep.
Amen, man. No, that's good. That's good. We've all done things we're not proud of. We've all made mistakes. And that's the beauty of the gospel is despite our weakness and our shortcomings and our frailty and our failures, he looks down on us and says, I want a relationship with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Chad, it's been a great conversation. We're over our time limit. Not that I have one, but I try to keep these to about an hour. And it's been a
No,
great
man.
conversation. We've gone all over the place, but it's been great. And
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us here on Christian Outdoors. Before I close the show, I forgot to remind you, don't hang up. I got to wait for the show to upload
Okay.
before you leave the studio. Okay. So I'm going to
Yeah.
wrap this up and then we'll do it. Again, we have Chad Stillman here on Christian Outdoors podcast. Chad, thank you again for joining us here on Christian Outdoors. It's been a great show, great conversation. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. God bless, guys.